Good evening, everyone. This is Stone Gasman live from New York City. And tonight we are going to be doing an audio commentary for Bob Fosse's Star 80, starring Mariel Hemingway and Eric Roberts and Cliff Robertson as Playboy publisher Hugh Hefner. And I'd like to introduce some special guests that are here with me, Sam and Chris, who are both veterans of Region Free. And I brought them on board because I'd very much like to get from them, first time reactions. I'm a big, I love getting first time reactions from people. And I think this was a solid choice for additional reactions because, like I said, it's been curiously underseen for many, many years. It's the only Bob Fosse movie that's not available on Blu-ray. But at any rate, please, Chris and Sam, introduce yourselves. Tell us and how excited you are for this commentary.
Chris, ladies first.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So I haven't heard of this movie before. And you gave it a little introduction before we started here, Stones. I'm kind of interested in seeing about it. I haven't really been familiar with even the case this movie's based on. So I'm all like completely new to everything.
I feel like I've so when you have to tenderize a piece of meat to get it like ready to, say you're doing like Mongolian beef and you've got to take out that meat tenderizer and beat the shit out of that meat. I feel like I've already done that to myself today. Like I've consumed so much media that has violence towards women in it. And I'm just like, ugh. I was going to try to watch Blonde before we watched this, but I was like, I can't. So... you told me about Star 80, and then I started looking into it, and then I was like, oh, hey, there's a TV movie. What is it? The Death of a Playmate? Or Death of a Centerfold. Excuse me. It's Death of a Playmate is the Village Voice article.
Yes.
And, which I'm still in the process of reading. And then it's Death of a Centerfold is the TV movie where we have Jamie Lee Curtis playing Dorothy Stratton.
Yep.
And that's probably the closest I'm going to get to seeing Laurie Strode die on screen again other than Halloween Resurrection. So I don't know why you would cast Jamie Lee Curtis to play Dorothy Stratton because, I mentioned there are just a couple of angles where I could be like, well, if you squint a little bit, she kind of looks like her. So I don't know. But I'm already skeeved out about watching some of the stuff detailing like when Dorothy Stratton and Paul Snider actually first started dating, or rather when Paul first started preying upon her. So you're going to get angry feminist Sam tonight, probably.
Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I mean, I'm definitely all for it. Before we press play, let's say hi to some guys in the chat real quick. Cliff Booth. You guys may or may not be interested to check out Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery's Video Archives podcast released this Tuesday, where they will also be talking about Star 80. Oh wow. I had no idea. I do know that the New Beverly in LA is showing the movie on November 10th, which is the day that it came out in 1983. So yeah, I think a lot of people are now coming around and talking about Star 80 now, which I think the timing is more than appropriate. Absolutely. That Muse, always lovely to see you. Hey guys, hey Stone. Planet Christian Hannah Horror, I love you, sir. I'm glad you could come out tonight. Yes. And Sam and Mr. Sam, what's up? Awesome. Well, tell you what, guys. I am paused on the Lad Company tree logo right there. Is that what you guys are seeing right now?
How many seconds in? And are you on the HBO Max?
I am not on HBO Max. I'm actually watching it on my DVD at home. But basically, right before the movie starts, you see a white screen with a green tree form on it.
Yeah. If you skip 15 seconds ahead, it goes to the white screen to the green tree on it.
Pause pause right at the beginning when the tree starts. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So yeah, everybody out in the chat, I mean, welcome to this commentary tonight for Star 80. I think this is going to be very illuminating. Absolutely illuminating. So, all right, tell you what, we'll go ahead and start on the count of 3. volume all the way down. And 3, 2, 1, and play. And this is the very famous Ladd Company logo from the early 1980s, which Alan Ladd Jr. and 2 associates had formed after they got basically ousted from 20th Century Fox because there were a lot of the board of directors were very upset with him over the deal that he made with George Lucas over a little film called Star Wars. But he also, Alan Ladd Jr. had also shepherded All That Jazz to the screen, so it makes sense that he would bring Bob Fosse on board, say, hey, here's $12 million. Well, what do you got? What do you have next? And he said, well, I become obsessed with this story, this murder of a Playboy centerfold. Okay, go make the movie then. Absolutely. So, and as a lot of people know, Bob Fosse was a major presence in the world of theater. He was the man behind the creation of Chicago, and he also directed 4 movies before this: Sweet Charity, Cabaret with Liza Minnelli, Lenny with Dustin Hoffman, and All That Jazz with Roy Scheider as Broadway choreographer Joe Gideon in one of the great screen performances of the 1970s. Editor Alan Heim won an Oscar for All That Jazz, and several others who were brought over from the All That Jazz team is also helping Bob Fosse here. But here we open up with Mariel Hemingway doing nudes, and it is very true that she had gotten breast implants right before the movie. Although to give her credit, she says that she didn't do it for the film; she did it for herself. So, but this was right before the movie started, and in fact, she posed for Playboy in January of 1984, just as Star 80 was going in wide release. And we start here on a freeway, all these cars zipping by. And everybody driving has no idea that right at that location in LA, that a brutal crime had just taken place. And this is Eric Roberts, the brother to Julia and dad to Emma, in one of his great screen performances.
Most Eric Roberts performances are great screen performances. So as long as he's playing a villain.
Exactly. And also, I was going to say is this is why I don't trust people with 2 first names.
So we get a little glimpse of the crime, but we go back to Vancouver, British Columbia, 1970. You guys know who that was on the painting?
No.
That's Telly Savalas, Kojak.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Paul Snyder. He likes to bullshit his way into any situation because he's a hustler and a pimp and or wannabe pimp essentially, and here he is molding his body. Yeah. You can already see the monster brewing inside him, right?
I'm just like, his eyelashes are so thick and full. I can't take him seriously as a pimp. It's like, it's like that episode of The Simpsons where Lisa's in the beauty pageant. She has to go against that other girl with like the shutter lenses, like click, 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 click.
It's also interesting. His eyebrows are thicker than his mustache.
Oh shit, you're right.
And check out those sideburns. He's going 3-way on this.
It's just like he's just gonna let him grow. He's gonna get more aggro, and they're gonna look like just like a forklift, just going around the jawline. His eyes, his eyelashes. Again, are they falsies? Are they real? I can't. I'm so distracted.
Yeah, And this being a docudrama, of course, Bob Fosse, opens up with a bunch of Faw interviews, and we see these interviews interspersed throughout the movie. I mean, this is not a long movie. This is only 103 minutes, and that's the thing. I think we can only take so much of being in this, world of sleaze and debauchery, and there's only so much we can take. And I think Bob Fosse knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, just like how many times do we have to see a wet T-shirt contest? Or
I don't know, but it's like I just feel bad for some of the girls that are a little bit larger on top in the wet T-shirt contest having to bounce around because that shit hurts. It's not comfortable. I mean, maybe it's different if like their implants. I don't know.
But this is what Paul Snider did. This is an example of what his game was. Was just doing these, these low rent, ways of exploiting women, whether it be, in a strip tease or well, of course, we see some male dancers later. But this is exactly what he did. I mean, he had never had any kind of ambition except exploiting the female body and just making money off of it.
Yeah, and that's, when I think of stuff like the celebutainment biopics, essentially, that cover the seedier aspects of celebrity culture, like, we had the whole Pam and Tommy miniseries on Hulu, and it's just sort of like the little tack on at the end. Oh, by the way, Tommy Lee, beat the shit out of her. And then, of course, we had that stupid Tubi movie with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's like, oh, by the way, we're going to skip over all, the rape with the bottle and all that stuff. It's just sort of like more of those movies are made about women to exploit them. But if we bring up the statistic about more of the abuse happening to us, there's inevitably a mouth breather that's in the top 3 about, hey, not all men. I'm like, yeah, I get that. This isn't your time right now. You're not your time. Like I said, angry feminist Sam is here.
Like I said, more than appropriate for this movie and this subject matter. Oh, yeah. And see, Bob Fosse, he was obsessed with telling the story. This is the thing. I think that he, of course, he saw a lot of himself in Paul Snider, which, of course, sounds really disgusting. But he actually said famously, he said that, if I wasn't a Broadway choreographer, I would be you. I would be Paul Snider. Like, oh. So yeah, that's the thing. He saw a lot of himself in this character, and he thought that it was a subject that was worth broaching or worth looking into.
It's not really an admirable trait, but I appreciate the fact that he's able to understand that about himself.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think even at the time, I think a lot of people were just wondering why this story. Why did Bob Fosse go into this dark descent into the sleaziest side of the business? Because he wanted to illuminate, I think, aspects of himself. And I think he wanted to do a massive indictment on the industry.
Yeah. Do you think what did Bob Fosse die of?
Oh, I think I know he, oh my God, I can't believe I don't know this off the top of my head.
Oh, he had a heart attack.
He did have a heart attack when he was making Chicago. Yes. What he died of? He died of heart attack. Yeah, he died of a heart attack.
Well, I mean, I was thinking maybe if it was something that he felt like he didn't have that much time left, it's kind of a way of confronting his previous works just in one last piece.
And behavior.
Right. Yes. And behavior. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Here again, very illuminating and very open for a director, I think, to actually go into this direction, especially at his point in his career. Because I think a lot of people saw All That Jazz as a final film in so many respects. And this is like an epilogue. This is like a dark and disturbing epilogue in his filmography. That muse. Eric Roberts is superb and terrifying in this. was late in seeing Star 80. I'd seen Best of the Best before this, so this messed me up. Such a tragic film, but a great adaptation. Yes, absolutely. And Bob Fosse does, in his screenplay, he does stick to the true story that was told in Death of a Playmate, the Village Voice article, which won the Pulitzer Prize. People forget how great Eric Roberts was. Runaway Train is an absolutely fantastic film. And I also loved him in King of the Gypsies. Oh, yes, 1978. Yep. Dan Shine, always great to see you, sir. Mariel's career never exploded like I would have hoped, but she did go toe-to-toe with the terrorist Diamond Dallas Page in First Daughter.
There's like 6 degrees of Stone Gaspin right here because you look like DDP.
Stone Gaspin, yeah. Who's Diamond Dallas Page again?
He did the Diamond Cutter. Let me get it in frame. There we go.
Excellent actor. I miss King of the Gypsies, moving that to the top of the list. And I wanted to say something real quick about the Dairy Queen that they meet in here.
I didn't know they had those in Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I'm ignorant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that particular Dairy Queen actually closed up in 2018. Yeah.
Also, I was doing a little bit of research. If I'm not mistaken, Paul met her or groomed her starting at the Dairy Queen when she was 16.
Pretty much.
And he was like in his mid-20s.
He was already like 23, and she was about 16, going on 17 here. Yeah, I can't believe I alluded to Sound of Music with that line, but yeah. Okay, yeah. Fun fact: the same Dairy Queen that Dorothy worked at in East Vancouver was used in this film. It closed permanently in 2018 with a few upgrades made over its 50-year run, but it's still considered an iconic location by many in Vancouver. And see, just with little actions that Paul Snider does throughout this movie, you know that he, is just a scumbag, and he's just ensuring that nobody has their eye on Dorothy, and he'll just do these ridiculous ways of humiliating them. I mean, Dorothy Stratton herself apparently said, "Oh yeah, he's pathetic. Yeah, he's a pathetic loser."
Just. I mean, especially in oh my God, it was so over the top in the Death of a Centerfold TV movie, though. Just Paul is like, everybody's kind of a caricature, I would say, to a degree.
Oh yeah. Just
because it's like he's textbook coercive control in that, and I'm just like,
it's
frightening.
Death of a Centerfold is the most obvious television script you could imagine from that time. And what I find mind-boggling is that Peter Bogdanovich liked it over Star 80. He called Star 80 a piece of shit. Now, he had his own personal reasons to call it a piece of shit, which we'll get to when he's actually introduced to using a pseudonym. Because when they were making this movie, Bob Fosse and the producers, they were scared to death about being sued from not only Peter Bogdanovich, but of course Hugh Hefner, who ended up did sue.
Yeah.
He didn't like how Cliff Robertson portrayed him, but he also didn't like how Bob Fosse wrote him. And there's a particularly ironic line that we'll get to when we meet Hugh Hefner here, But we have to establish the growing relationship. Here he is right here, actually. Cliff Robertson is Hugh Hefner. And I've always liked Cliff. I saw that Brian De Palma documentary a few years ago, which was brilliant, which is called De Palma. And he just sits there for 2 hours and talks about his films and the experiences he had making those films. Great, great documentary. He did not have the most flattering words for Cliff Robertson. Yeah. Now, I have to throw out there real quick about Cliff Robertson, because the first time I ever discovered him was on the Batman television series, where he played this Western villain called Shane. Shame. He played Shame, Shame. And
that's
it was basically a spoof of a movie Shane from 1953 with Alan Ladd, who of course is the father of Alan Ladd Jr., who was the producer behind Star 80 at the Ladd Company. So there's a little twisted connection there. Yeah. I'm a little high. Yeah, I think that Mariel Hemingway, I mean, what Jamie Lee Curtis lacked in the TV movie was just the naivete. That's what she really lacked. Mariel Hemingway has it here in spades. And she actually went to Fosse and actually, pretty much begged him for the part. She wanted to do this. She really wanted to do this role.
No, that was the perfect choice to cast. Just because, like, looking at Dorothy Stratton's pictures and and then looking at the shots of Mariel Hemingway is the resemblance is stunning. So
I can't tell if that's Dorothy Stratton or Mariel Hemingway. I mean, it is Mariel. I mean, we know it's Mariel, but you look at a picture with a box around them, you can't tell. They have very similar faces. Very similar faces. And of course, in his book, Peter Bogdanovich talks about how the body is all wrong and everything. Like, oh, come on, man. I mean, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Peter Bogdanovich is a character. After reading that book, he is absolutely a character. That shot right there. Yeah, you just can't tell. You can't tell. Perfect casting. And Eric Roberts, surprisingly enough, didn't want to do this movie. I don't blame him. I don't blame the man. I don't blame the man. I really don't.
I mean,
man, does he give it his all.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen Eric Roberts really sleep on much. Like, even in that Mariah Carey music video, there was like 2 I think he was in. He was like still like smiling with his eyes and being as villainous as he could be.
I mean, and it implies right here that the only song he's ever listened to in his life is Rod Stewart's "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" It's like the only song he ever listens to. It's the only tape he has in his tape.
So embarrassing. So cringe.
Yeah, I know. Or he may have been listening to 8 tracks. I don't know. But look at when Carroll Baker laughs at his suit. It's wonderful. Like, oh, you sleaze.
So fun fact, because I'm watching this on HBO Max. I'm watching it on the HBO Max. It has ads, but I'll just skip ahead a few seconds. It's fine.
Yeah, like 15 seconds should be fine.
It's just sort of like, I was really getting into them. Like, oh no, I forgot there were ads.
Oh, those damn ads.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm not going to pause it just for the sake of being, I don't want to.
Oh, no.
No, I'll just say 15 seconds ahead.
Fine. We can talk more about it after it's over anyway, so it's all good. But there's Telly. See, he says, I know I'm buddies with him, Telly Savalas. Like, bullshit. Even the little brother sees right through him.
Yeah, and
now,
the cousin in the TV movie saw through him too. It's like, oh Lord.
Get your feet off. Right there, she knows that this guy is no good for her. Carroll Baker, of course, became famous in the 50s for playing the title role in Elia Kazan's Baby Doll, based on the controversial Tennessee Williams play. And her film debut was actually a what they used to call an aqua musical, which had Esther Williams, and she made her film debut in that at the age of 21. But she had done a lot of films in Europe, and this was basically her kind of right after when she moved back to the States. This was the first film she did as Dorothy Stratton's mother. But you'll probably recognize her the most. I would imagine most people now probably recognize her as the mother of the bad guy in Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, you recognize her now.
I might. I'm gonna go Google that though.
Yeah. She's great in that. We're gonna be a family again, son. It's like, oh my God. And Paul Snyder did actually all do this. He went out and bought flowers and gifts, and Did he just? It's almost like, oh, I bought her, so now I own her. Like get the hell out of here.
And that's all part of the grooming process anyway, is gifts
Yeah.
and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
As well as like
Exactly.
the gift for the little sister too is kind of like, what the hell?
That's a red flag right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gift
Especially
for
it's
her,
like
a
a
gift for the little
first date.
sister,
I would be like, mm-mm.
but no gift for the mom or the brother. It's like, okay.
Even if he had brought a gift for the mother or the brother, I would still be like, that's a red flag. I don't even know you.
The first red flag, he's 20-something dating a 16-year-old. That's the first red flag.
Well, yes, that is true.
Massive red flag. Yeah.
Yeah.
From what I understand is that Bob Fosse, he really wanted to add as much verisimilitude in this film as possible. So he, aside from the big fact that the climactic crime actually takes place at it was actually shot at the same location, but apparently he got the high school band that played at Dorothy Stratton's prom. I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm a little creeped out by it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And, they actually sang Billy Joel.
It's just, it's difficult when you're trying to do a biopic and there's a lot of trauma involved because, like, you're recreating a bunch of those traumatic acts.
Mhm.
And, people are understandably going to be rubbed the wrong way. And I understand that it's part of the artistic process, but you don't have to be totally faithful to it.
Of course. But then again, I mean, can I just also throw out there, do we really need like 20 film versions of the Dahmer story?
No.
Just saying. I mean, I think we got enough when it came to Dorothy Stratton and her tragic murder, when it came to the, this and the article and the Bogdanovich book. I mean, I think we got enough from that story. I mean, but we don't need 20 versions of the Dahmer story. We just don't.
Yeah.
Mariel Hemingway being interviewed here, of course. And like I said, I mean, well, interestingly enough, I mean, Bob Fosse, when he decided to do this movie, of course, he went to the Ladd Company, and Alan Ladd Jr. was always big on writer-directors. He was always big on, especially ones that he worked with before. So, like in 1981, he gave Lawrence Kasdan all the freedom in the world to make Body Heat. He gave... what's his name, who made Outland, Peter Hyams, who wrote and directed Outland, gave him free reign. And a lot of the movies that came from the Ladd Company were actually from writer-directors, who had all the freedom in the world to, explore the process and to make the movies they wanted to make. And, without a strict schedule.
Also, Stone, I don't want to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
Kind of stuff with that. I did enjoy how the scene where he takes the nail file and his little penknife and stabs the quarterback guy, and then the next kind of like clip is him using that same nail file to mark out the pictures. So it's kind of like the beginning of his violence and kind of the end of his violence kind of stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a good point. I didn't think about that when I read so much beforehand. I never noticed that. That's awesome. That's interesting. Oh.
Do you think they wear the same mascara? Make their lashes really pop. I'm sorry. I can't get over this.
Eric once told Kevin Nash he started just every movie he was offered after failing to win the Oscar for Pope of Greenwich Village. And I remember Roger Ebert saying that, after Roberts didn't get an Oscar nomination for Star 80, he called it the Star 80 syndrome, where any Hollywood actor, if they play a creep, they will never be nominated just because they played a creep.
Well,
they will.
We've broken that curse, though, right? I'm sure we've given an Oscar to a creep, right? To somebody who played a creep.
I mean, we've got Oscars to plenty of creeps out there, but
yeah.
But people have played creeps. I don't know. About to say though is that reminds me of a story. It's Stone. close to my age, kind of stuff like that. The old show Little House on the Prairie, there was one character who
Oh
was this
yeah.
really mean old little girl, and forever this actress was haunted by people hating her because they thought she was that character. And so I think it's kind of what happened with the Creep and nobody getting Oscars for them is because people will see this character. It has such an impact on their psyche. They can't see them beyond being that creep.
Yeah.
So, like, the Academy
Yes,
is
I
worried
agree.
about people getting bullied, maybe? Because
Uh,
I don't, I don't think they would care about that.
no, they
part.
don't care about that. What I'm saying is like they can't view them. They can't view that actor or actress outside of that one pivotal role that's in their mind.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's the John Hamm effect.
Yeah, exactly.
From the fact that Hollywood just saw this performance and thought, "Oh, this is too real."
Yeah, it hits a little too close for home, I guess, for them.
It's too disturbingly real and close to home.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm. As sleazy as Paul Snider is, you can see how a naive young girl like Dorothy would be wrapped up in this whirlwind. But okay, now this is funny. This is actually Hugh Hefner's real life brother, who
Oh yeah,
shoots
Keith.
the very first pictures for Playboy. Keith Hefner. Yes, this is Keith Hefner, who's doing these first portraits for that they send in for Playboy, and of course he gets screwed out of finder's fee because Paul Snider had basically tricked him. And this is Bob Fosse's kind of way of saying, well, you know, the reason why Snider did this is because he was upset that he didn't control the photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
The way he looks in the camera and just you're distracting her, dude. He tells him to put him in his place, like, get the hell out of here. Now, I had seen a few of Mariel Hemingway's movies before this. I mean, she, of course, broke out with Woody Allen's Manhattan, where she got an Academy Award nomination. And then she did a movie with the writer of Chinatown called Personal Best, which is about a lesbian relationship that develops between two Olympic-bound runners, which made no money, but it was kind of a landmark film in LGBTQ cinema. And Siskel and Ebert really championed it. But
what was the name of that movie again?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the name of that movie again? About the runners?
Personal Best.
Oh, okay, thanks. I'm gonna just put that on, like, bookmark that for later.
Oh yeah. Written, produced, and directed by Robert Towne, and it also had Scott Glenn from Silence of the Lambs.
That's right.
That's her coach. But when I was growing up, what I knew Mariel Hemingway best from, even though it's not really any good, is Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, when she was cast as basically a rival to Lois Lane. This tall, statuesque blonde that comes to work at the Daily Planet, and of course, Clark Kent has to deal with that.
Kind of like a little bit of Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. Well, the infamous bit in Superman 4 involving Mariel Hemingway's characters when the bad guy played Nuclear Man flies her up in space, and she's basically alive in space. Like she sees her.
Clearly she's a metahuman also.
Yeah.
Oh, obviously.
Was it Superman 4?
She was in Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. Yeah,
that one. I remember Nuclear Man. But also, I was going to make kind of quick comment with Mariel Hemingway. I'm enjoying her acting in this because she's doing a great job of being very innocent, but also kind of portraying out there to the audience of She's in over her head, but she's too nice to say no.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's not surprising given the age difference between her and
Yep.
Paul.
Yep.
It's a big power differential there.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. The people who produced Charlie's Angels, read Playboy. She's unimpressed. Of course,
Weird.
what's funny about that is that, we were talking about Alan Ladd Jr. Cheryl Ladd was at one point a Charlie's Angel.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
That makes sense now.
And I'll be doing a commentary with her and Ken Wall next week, not with them, but a commentary on a film they did called Purple Hearts for Veterans Day weekend, which is about a romance between a Navy surgeon and a nurse during the Vietnam War. And I love this moment right here where he says, I do love her, and she's like, "What did you say? I thought you said you loved it." And every time that this scene plays, I keep thinking back to it. You know what? It kind of sounded like it.
I don't know. It's just sort of like, I feel like if this many people are telling you, hey, that guy's no good, that guy's no good, 90%
that
correct.
You would have come around by now. But yeah.
Exactly. Well, as well as his rant was about how much she can bring them fame. It's not about her getting fame by herself and what she wants. It's about bringing fame to them.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if every man who sees her in this movie automatically wants to own her and possess her and to exploit her.
Yeah, even the ones that are not Paul Snider levels of creep-tacular, they're still not really genuine in their emotions. And that's kind of like one of the sadder aspects of this movie, too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so he just Paul Snider ships her off to Playboy, and of course he's doing his, back to hustling again he's there in the bar talking on the phone with her. I mean, just amazing. And she is now at the Playboy mansion, getting to know her fellow bunnies, all the celebrities that are coming around. Hefner wasn't really impressed with how they did the mansion in this movie, but whatever. I don't care what he has to say about that.
Oh no, Hugh Hefner's upset that the mansion didn't look good. Holy crap.
Well, look, he did say, to be fair, they nailed Paul Snider to a T. But then Peter Bogdanovich, who later plays the movie director she gets involved with, or in real life, that's who it was, the movie director she got involved with. He said that he said the exact opposite about Eric Roberts as Paul Snider, and said, "Oh yeah, the TV movie was better." What? What are you talking about? I mean, I don't know if it was just Peter. Peter, you got to remember, in 1972, when Godfather came out, he made a movie called What's Up, Doc, with Sybil Shepherd and Ryan O'Neal. And it was a huge comedy hit. It was based on the screwball comedies. And that's what I did a commentary on earlier in the year in tribute to Pete. But that same year, Bob Fosse won the Oscar for directing Cabaret over Francis Ford Coppola. I don't think you have any place to judge Bob Fosse's filmmaking and saying this TV movie made on the lowest of budgets and the sleaziest of intentions is better.
You know what was weird about the TV movie is it kind of portrayed Hefner as, the concerned father figure, because that's a motif that appears a little bit here and, in a couple of different instances in that movie. And I'm just like, it's 2022. Can we just come to the conclusion that Hugh Hefner was, not really looking out for women?
Yeah,
just a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, there
I
was
agree.
more exploitation than not, you know.
Well,
And I'm not
he
saying
actually
that as
said
I'm like
after-
I'm not. It's not that I'm not sex positive. It's just I don't think most of those girls had much in the way of agency at the mansion.
Oh yeah, he was the
Exactly.
nicest of the sleaze.
Well, Hugh Hefner said after the whole tragedy that he said that he was, kind of a father figure to her. But of course, Peter Bogdanovich, who was good friends with him, and actually he was the first one he called. Hugh Hefner, the first person he called after what happened to Dorothy, was Peter Bogdanovich, because he had hung out there at the mansion, and that's how he met Dorothy and everything. He was the first person he called. And, he kept, he said to the press afterward that he was literally a father figure to her. According to Peter Bogdanovich in his book, of course, there was like a competition among the bunnies. Like, oh, you want to be Playmate of the Year? Yeah, come meet me at the grotto at midnight. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here again, reading Peter Bogdanovich's, I had to take it all with a massive grain of salt. I mean, massive grain of salt, because he has his own issues when it comes to his own career, because he essentially cheated on his wife Polly Platt when he was making some of his biggest movies in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Led to a torrid affair with the star Sybil Shepherd. And then they made a movie with Burt Reynolds in 1975, a Cole Porter musical, which bombed so badly. It not only destroyed his career, but it also destroyed the relationship he had with Sybil Shepherd. And so he was hanging out at the Playboy Mansion. And of course, he writes in his book how, like, oh yeah, I mean, I was in such a depressing place. I had a series of meaningless relationships with these women since Sybil Shepherd's like, oh, you poor bastard. And this is Keenan Ivory Wayans in his very first
Holy
movie.
crap!
Really? Yes.
That's
years
amazing.
before In Living Color. Yes. This just to let everybody know, let me give a timestamp real quick. We are 36 minutes and 50 seconds. Yeah, that's Keenan Ivory Wayans. Just a very quick shot of him doing his stand-up. And of course, Fosse, of course, loved, had a thing for comedians. He made a whole movie about Lenny Bruce, one of the first comedians and one of the most controversial. And of course, in All That Jazz, we see scenes of a comedian that is supposed to be the actor playing Lenny Bruce, Dustin Hoffman, as he is editing his movie Lenny, and has heart surgery and everything. So, yeah, I think he had a thing for comedians and like giving them a little showcase here and there. Very small part, but yeah, that was Keenan Ivory Wayans. Years before in Living Color.
I used to watch it all the time as a kid. Living Color, I love that show.
Oh my!
And this was about 13 years before Keenan Ivory Wayans' greatest performance in Glimmer Man.
Oh God!
Sorry,
oh,
there's a lot of Glimmer Man talk this week on the streams.
Why? Why is there Glimmer Man talk?
Me and Lauren were throwing around doing a commentary for Glimmer Man. I forget how we got there, but I love that movie. It's ridiculous.
I'd be down for that. I haven't seen it since '96, but treats these as objects, just like I got to get up early. Just get the fuck out of here. Like, God. Like I said, he's a character that you love to hate or love to despise, I think, in this case.
Yeah. He's vile. He is so
Eric
vile.
Robert.
Ew, don't Eric let Roberts that man touch your children.
Roberts softens his character once in the entire movie. I don't think he does. And him here with Dorothy Stratton's sister, and it's like, oh God, he has plans for her too.
He's just waiting for her to ripen up.
We don't need to hear them.
Yep.
We know these things. Ugh.
Like, I'm just like, please get him away from the children. All of the children.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, ugh.
Ew!
Well, of course, did I mention that Peter Bogdanovich married the younger sister? Oh, no. Yeah, he eventually married her. There's too much irony there.
I forgot about that. Ew! Ew!
Yes. See how all this is
Oh.
connected? It's like, okay.
I'm so skeeved out right now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, look at him on the phone. He's like, yeah, feels it, huh? Just people coming over and paying you money to take these pictures. It feels good, huh? Like, now here's where he's going to propose marriage and talk about haven't watched that Hefner doc everyone was raving about yet. Love to see that happen. No, I don't think I'm going to bother with a Hugh Hefner documentary. I don't think that highly of him. I think that's the first shot we saw of Dorothy Stratton being murdered.
No, there was one earlier because I saw blonde hair and it looked like
murdered. And
I don't know what else.
Especially when you see all the blood all over the pictures of her dead body. It's like, oh God, Bob. And when we get to her actual murder sequence, I'm actually going to quote a few things, which of course trickled from her autopsy report, which just brace yourself for that. But here we have Eric Robertson and Mariel Hemingway now at the Playboy Man. You know, in the TV movie, and I know Sam, you watched it, but in the TV movie, he actually does this massive outburst in the television movie, which came out of nowhere for me. I was just kind of like, really?
Oh, for what? The end where he murders her?
Well, in the television movie, he actually gets upset when he's at the mansion and he had like this explosion that causes everybody's attention. And in Star Wars, nothing like that happens. And here again, you know, giving credit where Peter Bogdanovich, you know, he said that a lot of this was actually fairly on the nose in terms of Eric Roberts' portrayal of Paul Snider being like this snake that just would be, you know, sinister in his intentions, but he would, you know, squirm his way in. And he thinks that he's actually friends with these people. He's a total sociopath. Absolutely delusional. But this is where Eric Roberts shines in these scenes, I think, at the mansion. Like, I just came here to talk to Dorothy. Who the hell are you? I came here to talk to Dorothy.
You know what? I just wish that the lines in my forehead made me look distinguished instead of like making me look old. Because it's like, I want to rock that. I want to rock the distinguished lines in my forehead to make it look like I've been thinking like really hard all day. So jealous of you guys. Because like they both, like him, like I don't know who this guy is, the dude in the brown jacket. It's like, look at these forehead ridges.
I don't remember if there was a name that he was actually based on, but yeah, he's just basically some random television actor who, you know, he flips from the bird. Like, beautiful. I love that. You fucker. And here's Cliff Robertson in his PJs.
That is harvest gold right there. I knew I was gonna get you to corpse. Oh no, I killed Stone.
Yeah, I was gonna say kill the stream for a second for Stone.
Roberts just he's glowing right now. He's like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of the king. You know, He's trying terribly to quote him. It's so pathetic. Favored killing over living. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he said favored death over life.
Paul Snyder talks like a Twitter reply guy. It's like Bob Fosse called it.
We're gonna put his arm around Hef like this. Like, oh God, dude. This is what I specifically read in Peter Bogdanovich's book. Paul's vulgar and strutting machismo was contrary to Hugh Hefner's insidious and subterranean lifestyle that lured in women like Dorothy and Marilyn. Paul's dress and manner of the street pimp seriously clashed with Hugh's mansions full of classier-looking clientele. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, when he just grabs that Playboy model's ass like that, I remember when I watched this, I'm like, oh, you're doing that right in front.
Dude, because he knows that she's not going to say anything because he's got her in his control.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Oh no, Stone streamed too hard and he's frozen.
Oh no.
All right, let's see. I have missed everybody's names in this. All I know, I don't know who that guy is, but I know that's Dorothy. There's Paul again, being a skeeve with the other
Of
with
course.
the other gal.
Well, the other guy, he's actually some kind of director. He was talking about allowing him to be with Miss August for like a acting kind of thing.
Also, sorry, I was just thinking of the movie named Ball Bearings, and I'm like,
oh, Stone's gone.
Oh no, it's just us. I hope he can get back in. I'm going to assume so. The stream belongs to us now.
Oh no!
Oh god damn it! There's a commercial.
Oh yeah.
Wait, is that Jared Leto?
I hope not.
No, that is Jared Leto doing a Gucci Guilty commercial. That is cringy. Oh man, I used to like Gucci Guilty. Can't anymore now.
Like we're doing commentary on commercials we're seeing because we're not seeing the movie because the HBO Max is not showing the movie.
No, that's fine. I mean, wait, was that a running bush? It looked like a running batch of hydrangeas.
Maybe mine was Bombay Sapphire. Was my second commercial.
Yeah, that was my commercial
okay.
too. Oh, and back to the Playboy Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose we should skip ahead. Everybody's going to be way off.
Oh yeah. Just hit with like 1 15 second ahead.
Yeah.
Welcome, Paul. Love you.
No. That's not cool, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is the thing. It's like he's accusing her of cheating with like all these guys when he's the one actively cheating plus feeling up the merchandise in front of her.
Oh yeah, because it's all projection.
I know.
It's all him. Like, well, she must be doing exactly what I'm doing, so I'm going to try and cut her off before she does what I'm doing because I can't trust her because she shouldn't trust me.
God, poor Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
She deserved better. And it's like he's trying to act like he is her pimp.
Mm-hmm.
It's never. Oh my lord.
That's kind of why I think he wanted to marry her as soon as he heard she was going to get $10,000. It's like, oh, you're making a lot of money now. I'm time to marry you. It's half mine now.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, that would just tie up his finances with hers.
Yep. See, here he is going spending all her money.
But apparently, I'm not exactly sure when this was, but I believe her business manager or agent advised her to set up like a business account that was Dorothy Stratton Enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
So he would actually not legally be able to touch that money.
Yes, but I'm sure because she was so innocent and nice and didn't want to, cause any waves or things like that.
Oh, she did, though. She did set it up, I believe. Hey, Stone,
Oh,
welcome
good.
back.
Yeah, sorry, I had to reboot my computer, but we're at the 50-minute mark. We're just coming up on the 50-minute mark here.
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
keep going with what you were saying. Mhm.
Oh, yeah, nothing important. Just talking about, because Paul is Snyder spending all of Dorothy's money.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, she goes to set up the business account, like as far as under Dorothy Stratton Enterprises, so he can't touch that portion of it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think that was. I'm not exactly sure when that was, year wise.
The great irony of that line by Hugh Hefner.
Oh, yeah, I get the personality of a pimp.
personality
Yeah,
of a pimp. Exactly.
Is that in the
Sam,
DSM-5?
that is.
Yeah. I think they're like DSM-2 at the time.
Is this the first time somebody's explaining to you about Paul acting like a pimp when he clearly is not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody understands why you're with him.
This is Robert Picardo, who was in a lot of. Here's Bob Picardo, who's in a lot of Joe Dante films like Inner Space and Gremlins 2. Yeah.
I was going to say is calling out kind of the cinematography right now. I enjoy how she is more light on her side with the questions, but the reporters in kind of darkness, kind of like the shadiness of reporters as well.
Yes.
Actually, kind of reminds me about how reporters used to interview Marilyn Monroe too.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments on this, Sam?
I mean, he can go.
No
he might have
padding.
Professional wrestling.
No padding. No padding.
I know. He's just taking bumps on that floor.
Oh, this is the greatest show in town. I just want to go right down there. I don't think these things are as popular as they used to be at that time. I don't.
No, I mean, we had a brief resurgence, I suppose, with the Magic Mike phenomenon. Yeah. That was cringy as hell.
Oh yeah.
Oh God! Please don't tell me Paul's going to get into this contest.
And then get embarrassed.
Yeah, Eric Robertson just made bank right here.
Good Lord!
He's just thinking. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we should do that shout out for Sven Nykvist. He was the cinematographer. He was Swedish, and he was known for his work with Ingmar Bergman. Fanny and Alexander, Cries and Whispers. I did a commentary on that earlier in the year. Yeah, that's what he's most well known for. But eventually, he would also work on films like The Unbearable Lightness of Being and Woody Allen films like Crimes and Misdemeanors. And he's considered one of the great cinematographers. He passed in 2006 at the age of 83. Oh, yeah, and right before this, he actually shot Fanny and Alexander and also the Jack Nicholson, Jessica Lange version of The Postman Always Rings Twice, which forgot what the title meant. That's how bad it is.
Oh.
Yes. Now, okay, Bob Fosse only directed 5 movies. Paula Stratton only was in 5 movies, and 4 of them are completely negligible. They're basically just bit parts. She was in, what is it? A roller skating disco movie called Skateland USA. And the only thing about that movie is that it was Patrick Swayze's debut.
Oh, wow.
So for anybody who wants to see Patrick Swayze doing roller disco and Dorothy Stratton ordering fries at the snack bar, that's the movie for you.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
When are you doing the Galaxina commentary? That, by the way, guys, is available for free on Tubi. So if you have more interest in Dorothy Stratton, you can find it there. I'm curious. I didn't have time to fit that in.
Watch all that jazz instead. Just watch
I would
all
rather.
that.
That's a yeah. I mean, Roy Scheider, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Eric Roberts just manipulating everything out of her. I mean, money and like, oh, could you call Hef and like get me into the Playboy Mansion like later today? You know, like. And when after he hangs up the phone and he does these taps on the counter, I can't stand those. They're the equivalent of like, you know, nails on a chalkboard when he starts beating the counter with his fingers.
Mm.
He thinks he's on top of the world right now. Now, I don't know names or specific issues, but there are real Playboy models among the among the crowds in the mansion scenes right here. I don't know if she's a real one, but she could certainly pass for one.
I would say.
Oh, yeah. Look at the hair. There's something about that early 80s hair. I don't know. He turns to his man. He's like, why the fuck is he in here? You know?
Trying to keep the riffraff out. I just like want Hef to pull, you know, and Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince. Ah!
Oh, just throwing DJ Jazzy Jeff out? Yeah.
Yes!
According to Peter Bogdanovich, when you're put on the gang list, you're basically invited anytime to the Playboy Mansion.
Mm.
Evidently. But needless to say, Paul Schneider was never on that list. And even though it doesn't necessarily state it in the movie, about like 1 or 2 weeks before the murder, that's when he was informed that he was barred from going into the Playboy Mansion unless he was with Dorothy. And of course, Dorothy was on the verge of leaving him.
They'd already been estranged for a while, though, too. I don't think, like... I thought there was a period of several months where they weren't really living together because she was staying with Bogdanovich, right?
She was. I mean, she was making a movie with him in New York called They All Laughed, which is also available for free on YouTube. And I watched it again. I've seen it only a couple of times. And look, I love John Ritter, but even his physical comedy couldn't save it for me. And this is a movie with Audrey Hepburn in the starring role. It was one of her last films. And Dorothy Stratton is barely given a chance to emote. I mean, she seems to be shot at so many angles as, you know, guys are following her and, you know, doting on her and everything. Because, look, I mean, John Ritter and his partner, they play like these detective agency guys, and they're tasked with following Dorothy Stratton. And it just, you know, there's just a lot of shots of Dorothy Stratton roller skating or Dorothy Stratton walking or Dorothy Stratton doing just something that doesn't require her to talk. And I was thinking, oh God, like whatever. I mean, and according to his book, Peter Bogdanovich said that Dorothy was in fact in love with her and in love with him. And that's what she told Paul Snyder as well. Like, no, I've fallen in love with Peter. And there's like he actually talks about like the night before she was murdered that they had been in this jacuzzi together and that they had, like I said, skeevy. This is part of the reason why I did not want to read the book, because, you know, he basically, you know, he basically says that like they had this idealistic relationship, this very brief idealistic relationship where, you know, she wanted to make a sad movie and he was determined determined to make that sad movie for her. And, he includes all her poetry, which he didn't write a lot of poetry, but he basically includes all of her poetry in the book. And some of it was evidently written to him. It just, God, I couldn't shake off, this thing. The introduction of this when you know later what this is basically symbolizing later, it's just disgusting. How I got through reading the Peter Bogdanovich book, I don't know, but it's called The Killing of the Unicorn, and I refused to pay like $300 for it. And it came out literally after Star 80. Like, it came out about 6 months after the wide release of Star 80 in 1984. So, it was pretty clear, I think, that he was kind of bitter that he never got to tell his side of the story. And I think he hated Bob Fosse for that. That's just my interpretation. But for better or for worse, there's still a couple of Peter Bogdanovich movies I can't let go, like Paper Moon and especially Noises Off, which is one of my favorite comedies. And it has like this cast that includes Michael Caine, John Ritter, Mary Lou Henner, Carol Burnett, Christopher Reeve. One of my favorite comedies. And and it's funny, this scene starts with the roller skating here, because the song that you hear in this scene, or the music that you would hear in this scene, is from They All Laughed. And there is a similar scene where it plays in the roller roller disco rink where Dorothy Stratton is. And I think this was some kind of morbid way of Bob Fosse telling Peter Bogdanovich, yeah, I saw They All Laughed. I think that was basically his way of it. And there he is right there. There is Roger Rees in the sunglasses playing, quote unquote, Aram Nicholas, who is in actuality Peter Bogdanovich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he says in his book that, I saw her at the Playboy Mansion, this year, but I didn't get to talk to her for another year. And it's just, all skeevy.
Yeah. So I don't want to interrupt you as you're going on and stuff like that. I was going
to go ahead,
bring back up something I noticed with the pinball scene. That was kind of like 5-6 minutes ago. So something I really enjoyed about that, it's foretelling the rest of the movie, because he's doing really well. He's up on top. Then he messes up. He gets upset. He hits the machine, uses physical violence. It causes the game to tilt, which ends the whole game entirely. So his life is over.
I didn't notice that. Oh, that's amazing. Like I said, Bob Fosse labored over this movie. He was obsessed while making this movie. He literally died while he was doing a television cut of it, which seems impossible.
Yes.
It really does seem impossible. But and of course, they use all fake names for all the movies and everything, like Time Step. Have you seen Time Step? That could be a fake name for At Long Last Love, starring Burt Reynolds and Sybil Shepherd. The ode to 1930s movie musicals that nobody went to see in 1975.
What was the Cole Porter musical that you were saying that did so poorly?
Oh, At Long Last Love.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the one that had Let's Make Love in it? That song. Was that part of that?
I haven't seen. Oh, man.
Oh, it's Let's Do It. Let's Do It. Let's Fall in Love. Yeah. Okay, so that was in 1928. And that showed up in, where is it? Paris. Okay, so yeah, I can understand why that one would still survive, but yeah, by 75.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like I said, he had a string of failures after that. It didn't just end with it just didn't end with that, because what happened is that he made a movie for Roger Corman, which Quentin Tarantino cites as one of Roger Corman's best films called Targets. And it's basically about a man who just decides to murder his entire family and shoot people on the freeway. And it's based on the real life case of what is it? What's the guy's name? When he goes on this unprovoked killing spree. Bobby Thompson. Charles Whitman, who perpetuated the University of Texas tower shooting in 1966. That's what inspired him to do Targets. But it didn't have a release because Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy got murdered the same year. So it kind of just, Paramount just kind of like, put it out limited release, but the critics loved it. And that's what made Peter Bogdanovich a star in the 70s, because after that he did Last Picture Show with Sybil Shepherd and Jeff Bridges, which is a film that a lot of people love. I do not. I am one of those that does not like that film. But after that, he then made What's Up, Doc, Paper Moon, Daisy Miller with Sybil Shepherd. And in 1984, and this is very important, I need to bring this up, but in 1984, there was actually another movie that had Peter Bogdanovich as a fictional interpretation, which was Ryan O'Neal and Shelley Long and Drew Barrymore in a movie from the team that wrote Private Benjamin called Irreconcilable Differences. And it's basically all based on Peter Bogdanovich and how he fell in love with Sybil Shepherd, played by Sharon Stone, of all people, and how his relationship with Polly Platt all fell apart. It's all based on Peter Bogdanovich and his attempts to make this. In the place of At Long Last Love, he tries to make a Gone with the Wind musical called Atlanta with Sharon Stone. So, I mean, Peter Bogdanovich still has a lot of fans in film circuits, and I completely understand why. I mean, this is just kind of, I guess, a blight on his resume, I guess, in terms. But it's amazing, like how much has been done of him as a fictional person in films, or inspired by his real life escapades, I guess you could say. Timestamp real quick. We are 1 hour and 7 minutes. 1 hour and 7 minutes into Star 80. Got some more notes here. Yeah, he thinks he's her manager in his mind.
That's all part of the grooming, though, is you befriend them, gift give them, separate them from their family and friends far away as much as possible.
Make them dependent on you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Total playbook.
Mm-hmm.
So it's abuse here, but it's not abusive when Johnny Depp does it. Okay. Yes, I had to do that. Yes, okay. I had to get that dig in.
He deserves it.
Yeah, fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
No comment on that. I just can't believe I mean, the people got so immersed in all that story. But like I said, I'm literally
trolling Johnny Depp stands right now.
I mean, but it shows how much. I mean, the thing is, we are obsessed with celebrity culture, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
That was a lot of dirty laundry in that trial. According to Peter Bogdanovich in his book, Stratton was naive about people's intentions. She believed most things people said and assumed everyone was pure. She looked for the most positive qualities in the most obvious villain.
And that's such a rare quality. So it's like they see that existing, and it's just the first notion is to just go and use it all up, use it to their advantage.
use it to their advantage, monetarily and otherwise.
Yeah.
And one of Peter's complaints about Star 80 was that where was all the love and the laughter? Okay. Peter, this is the story of a woman that gets groomed, used, and abused and exploited by Hollywood. Where is there love and laughter in that story? Look, you know, he in his mind he may have had these wonderful experiences with Dorothy Stratton. I do think that there is a bit of exaggeration in the words that he uses in his book, uh, maybe to save his own ass, but maybe just to you know, tell his side of the story. I don't know. That's why I didn't look too deep into everything he says. But I mean, the most compelling things were when he had conversations with Dorothy, and we get a little bit of a little insight into who she was as a person. Actually, even more so than the Pulitzer Prize winning article by Teresa Carpenter, which here again, I mean, this movie does follow that article very, very closely. You see, he doesn't even listen to anything. It goes to one ear, out the other. He's not listening to anything that anybody has ever said throughout the whole movie about his flaws. But he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know any other way of being successful.
Oh my goodness.
You know, take some money, go to college. Good Lord. But yeah, he was just, a brain dead sleaze. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, it's just completely indicative of how insecure and small of a man he knows he is by trying to fight for status among all these other people who couldn't care less about him because they can see right through him.
Yep.
And so he can only exploit. He can't build anything on his own.
Exactly, as well as how short-sighted he is. As you said, Stone, he could have gone to college. He could have gone some other stuff like that with the money, but he's just too quick with things. I need status now. I need money now. I need all these things now because I'm a pathetic loser.
Yep.
And according to Peter's book, there were a lot of late night phone calls, a lot of harassing phone calls because, you know, being obsessed with whoever is with her, you know, like she just became Playmate of the Year in 1980. There is not a single male in the country that probably hasn't looked at her now. Like, get over yourself. But he doesn't realize that. He's too broken. Just has no idea. Now, eventually, he's going to, of course, hire a detective who we're going to meet here in a few minutes, who is going to start some trouble. Now, according to Peter's book, even though Bob Fosse doesn't mention it in the movie, but according to Peter's book, he never met Paul Snider. He never met Paul Snider in person, which is why I'm inclined to believe Hugh Hefner's words over his in terms of Eric Roberts' portrayal of him. But he did say that it was confirmed to him later that Paul Snider was outside his house with a gun and keeping an eye on things to see who would come out first and everything. But he said he never had any physical contact with him whatsoever. But at the same time, he realized later that his life was in danger sometimes because apparently Snider was like right around the corner, you know, in a car or wherever. And eventually had this detective track him and everything. And This
Stone.
Uh-oh. We've made Stone glitch again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're at this point where Paul is being discussed as a creep, which, of course.
Yes.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh, so it says star 80 on the license plate.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Everybody's going to know who we are.
Okay, but why star 80?
1980, because that was the year he
Oh.
was playing.
Sorry.
Maybe.
Yes, I forgot the time period for a second.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people nowadays would look at the title and be confused by it. Like, what does that mean? Well, now you know.
Yeah. But it's like you got to change that license plate every year.
But it's certainly I think it's certainly a more eye-catching title than Death of a Centerfold.
Oh my gosh.
The Dorothy Stratton story. Like, get out of here.
Well, also, since you're back again, Stone, I was going to say is when she's on the phone with him in the hotel, I like the scene set up where it's 2 beds. So she's in the one bed talking on the phone. She's fully clothed. She's comfortable. She's going to do that. On the other bed is all her Playboys. So it's the duality of her identity currently. It's between her innocent self as well as her over-sexualized self at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Oh man. Now see his strategy is beginning to crumble here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like, again, this is also never enough.
Never enough.
For Paul. Because it's just like, didn't he just finish sleeping with that gal and he's trying to get into Playboy Mansion because it's like, no, I must have more. It's like, you've already cheated on your wife, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to indulge every single vice.
Not only cheat on her, but take all her money.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, egregiously spending all her money as if it's his, Now, I mean, this is of course Aram Nicholas in the guise of Peter Bogdanovich, but I will say this, I think that his dialogue is pretty. Here again, the producers were scared as hell of being sued. They were so terrified about being sued, so they treated Peter's character very softly, very timidly, because here again, they were just paranoid about being sued by Peter Bogdanovich, certainly more so than Hugh Hefner, because Hugh Hefner actually signed off on the Playboy licensing and the logo and everything. He signed off on that. But then when he saw the movie, he's like, oh my God. I mean, so you're saying we're all, pimps and we all exploit women. Yeah. That's exactly.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. It's too late now.
Yeah. All here. We're just a family, She's not staying at the hotel that she usually stays at, so this is just going to fuel his jealousy even more. I mean, this lawyer doesn't really do much to help Dorothy Stratton here at the end. I mean, he helps Paul Snider get the gun that he uses to shoot her. Yeah, Eric Roberts is like totally lost now. He's seriously, he's reached rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to take a piss. Oh. But look, I mean, personally, while I don't think this is Bob Fosse's finest movie, I mean, I would save that for Lenny or all that jazz. But I think that he does accomplish his goal, which is to showcase the nasty side of Hollywood in all its disgusting glory. I think that's what he set out to do, using this story as sort of a microcosm, into looking at how horribly men treat women in this arena, and how if they're kicked out or they don't get what they want, then they resort to violence.
I mean, yeah, in some cases.
And that's the thing. I mean, Roger Ebert. I was going to quote Roger Ebert's review real quick, but let me just. I'm going to do one more final quote from Peter's book, which is near the beginning of the book, and he takes these words practically from Stratton's autopsy. Dorothy did not look dead. Her torso was draped over the end of the bed, her hair hanging down, still vibrant. Paul's bloody fingerprints were on her buttocks and one shoulder. The coroner later found semen in her vagina and rectum. The violent sodomy had disfigured her. A long line of black ants and other insects led to her face, with a similar trail leading to Snyder's head. And according to the book by Peter Biskin called "Easy Riders and Raging Bulls," which is a great book, quote, probably loaded on booze and lewds, Snyder blew Stratton's head off with a shotgun and then placed her prostate on an exercise bench, later referred to in the press as a bondage machine, and had sex with her corpse. Her butt was slightly elevated by the bench, on which there were semen stains. There were 2 bloody handprints on her bottom. One of her fingers, apparently blown off when she raised her hands to protect herself, was stuck to the wall, along with a fair amount of blood. She was 20 years old. Snyder then shot himself in the head. When the police discovered the body, one of his eyes had been moved to the center of his forehead by the force of the blast, so that he looked like a cyclops.
Ugh. I mean, I think this is a good example of why I generally stay away from most true crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'll take the fake horror movie. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. And there's been surprisingly very little retrospectives on Star 80 over the years, even though Bob Fosse, he won, his musical Chicago won Best Picture in 2002, years after he died. But Christina Newland, who writes for RogerEbert.com, wrote in 2016 an article called "A Horror Story for Our Times, Another Look at Bob Fosse's Star 80." She says, and I quote, "This is not the case with his final film, Star 80. It's far from genre material, though the true story it's based on is the stuff of demented horror. Instead, it's a terrifying and genreless descent into the red mist of misogyny. Based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning piece of investigative journalism, Fosse traces the behavior of the men, a small-time hustler, a magazine magnate, and a movie director, who tried to, at every turn, to market, control, and possess Dorothy for their own ends. And while it may not be a horror movie, it's no great stretch to say that Star 80 is one of the scariest films of the decade."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good article over at RogerEbert.com. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I actually just found that article. I had to bookmark for later too.
Yes.
Something that I was thinking of, because I noticed that in the TV movie and also this movie as well, it's like seeing again the men around her possessing her in different ways and trying to exploit her as they can. Is it any coincidence that she was a mute android in Galaxina? That's a little too on the nose as well.
Well, and like I said, you watch her in both Galaxina and They All Laughed, and it just, I have to question the direction, and I have to question what they were doing with Dorothy Stratton in both of those movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
can't
like,
help it. And
also
they all
Autumnborn, the
laughed
one
at
where
me.
she's tortured.
Yeah, I actually couldn't even find that, and I was actually kind of relieved when I couldn't even find that to watch. But I think I'd rather watch Skate Town USA again. But
That sounds like good times.
they all laughed. Maybe her, yeah, they all laughed. Maybe her most legitimate film, but like I said, I'm John Ritter's biggest fan. Even for him, it was a slog to get through. It really was, and I love Audrey Hepburn too, but I just didn't think it was a romantic comedy. I mean, it's just really weird how it's played out because there's a lot of beautiful women in there. They all of them hit on the male characters like insane, and it just kind of shook my head. It didn't feel like a romantic comedy that couples would enjoy on like a Saturday night. And he was trying to
Yeah.
fashion this like a good old fashioned New York comedy, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. I mean, despite whatever intentions there were or creative inspiration, and here again, I mean, even for Ritter's physical comedy, it wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it. But yeah, in his book, in his history of her, yeah, they had this wonderful night in a jacuzzi the night before she was murdered. Like, and he goes in detail. He goes in detail about this stuff. And it's probably the skeeviest book I've read next to Burt Ward's Misadventures of Being Robin on the Batman show, where he basically just talks all about his sexcapades being Robin. It's like reading something like that.
Okay. All right, Burt Ward got freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. Oh, he got freaky, all right.
Oh, like
just real
basically
quick,
confirmed all of our suspicions about Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, one of my favorite stories about the Batman series is that apparently, Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler, and Adam West, who played Batman, they were really good friends in real life, and they actually went to this Hollywood orgy.
I've heard that
where
story.
they were barred from the orgy because they wouldn't break character. Look,
I'm dying.
I want a movie
I'm
about
picturing it.
that.
I'm dying. Yep. Got me. Got me.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I understand, it's all orgies in the Playboy Mansion. I mean, from what I understand, there's this whole room that is just a mattress.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's like
it was pretty well known. Like, not even when Hefner passed, it was, those stories were coming out in droves. Like, oh yeah, there were like tons of girls in there. We had to like feed them a whole bunch of erectile dysfunction pills to get it hard and do all of this. And it sounds, oh god, it sounds disgusting. And I am pretty sure I've heard about like rampant UTIs and
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Dorothy Stratton was murdered on August 14th, 1980. It was a Thursday. And a lot of this is taken from the article. Like I said, the Pulitzer Prize article. He actually did clean the entire house. This is the actual house where the murder actually happened. This was actually filmed at the actual apartment. Bob Fosse went that far. He went that far.
Yeah, that's. I would just not put the crime scene in your movie.
Yep.
The actual one.
Yeah. When the private detective says, what happened? Yeah, this is pretty much what did happen. Of course, a lot of the dialogue is, of course, Fosse's own interpretation, but based on everything I've read, I think he nails it more often than he doesn't, because knowing what little we know of Stratton, one thing I got from Peter's book was that she did have this personality where she always saw the good in people. And she wasn't willing to let Paul go. And, the idea that, when he starts making suicide threats and everything, she couldn't leave him. And so I think that Bob Fosse writes this in a very ultra realistic way, where she'd had one chance to leave. She probably had one chance to leave, but she didn't take it because she was so worried about Paul's well-being. But yeah, that the whole idea of this meeting was that she was just going to give him half of what she had in her bank account, and that was it. And look he's still wearing those boots.
Yeah. It's because he can't stop fixating on the status. That's why he can't let her go, because he wants his status. He wants those boots.
He can't. And right here he says, that, I bought a gun and everything, and just, yeah.
And that's all part of the control. That's all part of that control.
100%. The explosion of Eric Roberts. How what Julia's opinion of this movie is, or even Emma Roberts' opinion. I'd be tempted to get their perspectives on this. Taking a final drink. He still thinks that they could at least be in business together. The way Bob Fosse just moves the camera up and looks at him, it's like, dude, really? Really? The monster is going to come out. In closing, I wanted to quote Roger Ebert's review. And by the way, both Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert gave exemplary reviews to Star 80. In fact, I think a lot of critics at the time did give good reviews. But Richard Linklater doesn't remember that. He remembers this movie just getting a lot of hate. He actually did a 30-minute introduction for Star 80 at a screening that he did down in Texas. And he was talking about how this film was just hated by those in the industry, by Bob Fosse fans, by a lot of people. And, he said, well, people would say it's a piece of shit. Well, no, it's about a piece of shit. There's a difference there. But Roger Ebert gave Star 80 4 stars. And he said this is his most despairing film. After the Nazi decadence of Cabaret, after the drug abuse and self-destruction in Lenny, and the death-obsessed hero of all that jazz, here's a movie that begins with violent death and burrows deeper. There were times when I could hardly keep my eyes on the screen, and a moment near the end when I seriously asked myself if I wanted to stay in the theater. And yet I think this is an important movie. Devastating, violent, hopeless, and important, because it holds a mirror up to the part of the world we live in and helps us see it more clearly. In particular, it examines the connection between fame and obscurity, between those who have a moment of praise and notoriety and those who see themselves condemned to stand always at the edge of the spotlight. Like Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, it is a movie about being an outsider and about going crazy with the pain of rejection. And in closing, he says, what is the point of Star 80? I'm not sure, just as much as I wasn't sure of the points of In Cold Blood or La Comme Lucienne or The Executioner Song. There is no redemption in this movie. There's no catharsis. It unblinkingly looks at the short life of a simple, pretty girl and the tortured man who made her into something he couldn't have and then killed her for it. The movie seems to be saying these things happen. After it was over, I felt bad for Dorothy Stratton. In fact, for everybody. And amazingly enough, despite Bob Fosse's legendary reputation, it just never gets talked about in the same breath as All That Jazz or Cabaret or Lenny, which I think are three of the finest films of the 1970s. But Star 80
Stone,
needs to be talked about more, and it needs to be on a Blu-ray. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think the poor reception has anything to do with how quickly it came out following her death?
That's one thing. That's something I think even I think I read somewhere in all the research I've done that a lot of people were, disturbed that this just came out only 3 years after it happened. So it was still, kind of fresh in everybody's minds and everything.
Yeah, because we had just had the TV movie in '81.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think Peter Bogdanovich, I think he always wanted to make like his movie version of his relationship with Dorothy. And I think when this movie came out, he just, exploded with rage at Bob Fosse, because, saying, oh, you got all this wrong and everything. Well, I think Bob Fosse got a lot more right than he did wrong. I really do think he did. I mean, despite the uncomfortable verisimilitude of where he shot it and, several other things, how he builds up Paul Snider's character. And yeah, I mean, it's rough stuff. It's very rough, very hard to watch stuff. And yet it is, I think, like Roger Ebert said, very important. And the Lad Company, they never put out a horror movie. Now, I did a couple of commentaries a few weeks ago, right before Halloween, of a couple of horror movies that Alan Ladd Jr. had produced in the early 70s. But the Lad Company itself never put out a horror movie. This is probably the closest they've ever gotten to putting out a horror movie. And you got to remember, this came out, in the throes of all these slasher films and sex comedies that were dominating the screen in the 1980s, and to have this come out in the middle of all that is just, oh my God.
Yeah, this is far worse than most horror movies, though.
Mm-hmm.
Blames everybody else. They did this. Oh.
Yep. That's what an abuser does. Never takes responsibility.
And even though he did not include the tidbit about Dorothy Stratton blocking the gunshot, which I just reiterated from before, at the very, very least, I mean, say what you will about Bob Fosse, at the very, very least, he gives Dorothy Stratton the last word. He gives Dorothy Stratton the last word in the movie. He doesn't let Paul Snider have the last word. Even though what he said right there, he could have easily ended it with just that quote, but he didn't. I mean, we knew from the beginning that this was going to happen, so it wasn't going to be a surprise. Oh, God. I mean, we don't see this in graphic detail, but when he brings it out, that's all you need to see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. It's funny, Gene Siskel, he was actually at the Playboy Mansion for a number of years in the 70s, and he named Star 80 one of the 10 best films of 1983. And you got to remember, Gene Siskel hated like any movie that showed graphic violence or graphic sex. He was, he was very much a prude about all that kind of thing. But he gave this movie, he said this was one of the 10 best of the year. And of course, everybody was wondering, well, where was the Oscar nomination for Eric Roberts? And well, we know that he just played too much of a creep, played too much of a horrible creep, and too much of a fixture of Hollywood. Like I said, it's a damning indictment. It's a damning indictment of everything that Hollywood does behind the scenes. Now, see, here he ends with Dorothy doing the last word.
Just a very simple cut to credits.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very simple. Yeah. It's almost like, well, what more is there to say? There's really not much of anything left to say, I think. But so give me your honest opinion. So what did you both think of Star 80? Chris?
I don't want to use the word enjoy with this kind of stuff because, like I said, like Sam, I don't really enjoy true crime because that's real, and I don't like seeing real things portrayed. But I will say it was shot very well, and I kind of enjoy how even back then they were talking about the seedy underbelly of Hollywood. And I think it's also partly why it didn't win an Oscar as well. It showed too much of a truth to them. Like it was the reflection of Hollywood back at itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of for me.
Oh, just real quick before I let Sam speak, the film is dedicated to Patty Chayefsky, who was also a writer, won a number of Oscars, including for The Hospital with George C. Scott. Famously, he won the Oscar for Network in 1976. But he was very good for Bob Fosse, and he died in 19. He dedicated Brady to him. But so Sam, eager to think what you think of what Star 80.
It was much better, obviously, than the TV movie. And, you know, it's a story that does need to be told. I feel like it's also kind of just another, in a lot of ways, it seems like we're still going over that same story about being exploited in Hollywood. Like, that still happens today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to continue happening. Let's be real. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel so bad for Dorothy Stratton. I feel like, because it's just 20 years old is so young. And she'd already done so much, but she'd also been abused so much. And I'm just, if she could have gotten out of there, like if she could have gotten away from Paul Snider, would she still have continued to have been used by the other men around her, by Hollywood in general?
Mm-hmm.
Would she have become another Sybil Shepherd?
Good point. I will apologize. I don't know. Did you hear, Stone? Did you hear a low rumble on the commentary?
Low
the last
rumble?
few minutes. A low rumble.
No, I didn't.
He was purring very loudly in my lap, and I think the mic caught it.
So, what does the cat think of Star 80?
Oh, he just wants his belly rubbed. That's
all he wants.
Oh, he just wanted. I thought he was growling because of Paul Snider and his evil misdeeds. So yeah, okay. So yeah, just real quick. Several Academy Award winners who worked on all that jazz also worked on Star 80, including the editor Alan Heim and Ralph Burns, who did the music. And like I said, I think this is a very underrated movie. It does not have a Blu-ray release. I wish Warner Brothers or Criterion or somebody would take this project up, because I do think that this movie at least deserves a Blu-ray, even if there's no extras. But this is a story that has a lot written about and a lot of focus on, particularly at that time. I mean, getting some film historians for a commentary, I mean, I think would be terrific. But yeah, it's still only available on a bare bones Warner Archive DVD. But you can get that at Amazon for like $10-15 probably. And but I think the movie deserves much more than that. I think it's one of the best films to come out of the Ladd Company. Eric Roberts, one of his finest performances in a sea of great performances, and Mariel Hemingway plays a very, very tragic figure. I think it's a great true crime story with some amazing themes in it that had to be done, especially at that time. But yeah, I can also completely understand why this is not everybody's cup of tea. I can understand people. This is not a date movie, okay? I mean, I can imagine in 1984, 1983, of like maybe guys that took girls out to Star 80 be thinking they're like, okay, like, no, this is not. You have to be in a certain movie. You have to, endure a lot of disgusting, unsavory things in it. And here again, I agree with Sam and some others that it makes it came out at a time when all these slasher films came out. This is real horror. This is the real horror that I think that a lot of those slashers didn't touch upon. But going on, it was very, very true. And I think that here again, I think that Bob Fosse got more right than he did wrong. Whatever criticisms you want to lobby at him, I think he got more right than wrong, and that's why this film needs to be seen and I think discussed and and all that. So yeah,
I definitely.
I want to thank you so much. Yeah. I want to thank you both so much for joining me tonight. I know we had some weird technical issues. I had to go back in and out, but I think it worked out still very, very well. And at any rate, just to let everybody know, I want to thank everybody in the chat: Dan Shine, That Muse, Jessica, and Cliff Booth, Planet CHH, and Cliff Booth. Love all you guys. Thank you so much for coming out. And just to let everybody know that my next commentary will be Tuesday morning at 1 a.m. for The Candidate, starring Robert Redford. And then this weekend, I will be doing some commentaries on some Veterans Day movies, including Heroes with Henry Winkler and Harrison Ford and Sally Field. And that will be Saturday night at 9 p.m. All right. So at any rate, Chris and Sam, thank you so much for coming on board. And thank you for everybody for coming out for this commentary on Star 80. And you all